On the outside, Foxborough looks calm, quiet, like the Patriots are just letting the offseason breathe. But underneath, it feels like something's building. There's an offensive angle that could turn into a real hunt for another target. There's trade chatter pulling attention toward one city, even though it might be pointing somewhere else. And then there are two defensive decisions that will tell us what the 2026 Patriots want to be: a team opponents fear, or a team that hangs around and hopes the breaks go its way. The wild part is it might not come down to one jersey name. It's the cost. It's the timing. It's how aggressive they'll be when the window is staring at them, and you have to decide if you're pushing or hesitating for the long haul too. So I'll ask it straight. Where do you think they're leaning? Because once these pieces line up, it's hard to unsee. And it also tells you what they really think of their current roster, whether they say it out loud or not. If you walked away from last offseason thinking the Patriots solved the receiver room, I'd be careful. That comfort gets tested the second you're in a playoff-style script, and every throw gets tighter, every window gets smaller, and every mistake costs you points. Stephon Diggs and Mac Hollins gave them real value. Kyle Williams flashed, even in limited snaps. Even UDFA Efton Chisholm III had his moment. That first down catch in the wildcard matchup against the Chargers happened. All of that is true. But here's the flag. As things stand, all 6 wideouts who were rostered last season are still under contract. A room can be full and still need one more real difference maker. That's the tricky part. You don't want to look up in October and realize you stopped shopping too early. When a room feels set too early, teams stop hunting upgrades. Then the field shrinks, the margin disappears, and Drake May is the one trying to make it all work anyway. So what's next? A cut? A trade? Or an addition that forces defenses to play New England differently? Because running it back is only fine if the room actually scares people. Diggs has been listed as a potential cut candidate. That's not a throwaway note. It changes how teams respect the Patriots vertically and how they defend the middle. It changes spacing. It changes the way the entire passing game breathes. At the same time, there's been trade talk circling Pop Douglas. Talk isn't confirmation, but the fact it's even out there is a reminder. The front office can't coast. If May is taking the next step, the weapons can't just stay good enough because everyone's comfortable with the names. That's why this bigger-bodied, downfield receiver trend matters. For a franchise that leaned on quick slot types for years, it's notable that recent success came from bigger frames threatening deeper. Hollins and Kayshon Boutte had excellent seasons, and they weren't massive investments, about $4.2 million per season and a 6th-round pick. When you get value like that, the temptation is obvious. Find another version of it and let May throw into more favorable looks. In a recent piece from NBC Sports Boston's Justin Ledger, he referenced 2 wide receivers Dan Brugler tagged as Vrabel guys: Indiana's Omar Cooper Jr. and Washington's Denzel Boston. And Vrabel guy at receiver usually points to size and physicality. The 2 times Vrabel's squad took a receiver in the first 2 rounds, both were 6'1" or taller and at least 220 pounds. Treylon Burks at number 18, A.J. Brown at number 51. Cooper is listed at 6 foot even. Boston is 6'4". Neither hits 220, but you can see why they're being discussed in that lane, especially with how New England's recent wideout success has looked. Cooper finished with 937 yards on 69 catches, and the number that jumps is 13 touchdowns. That's production in the moments that matter, at least on paper. He ran an official 4.2 at the Combine this past week, basically right there with Kyle Williams' 4.0 from last year. He won the national championship with IU and had 5 catches for 71 yards in that title game. And yes, a 10-catch, 207-yard, 4-touchdown game against Indiana State in September boosts things. No shame in saying it. Still, he scored in 6 of his last 7 games. He had only 3 carries all season, and 1 went for a 75-yard touchdown against Kennesaw State. So you're talking about speed, and you're talking about a guy who found the end zone over and over. Boston's production was almost a copy of the year before. He finished with 62 catches for 881 yards and 11 touchdowns. 1 more catch, 47 fewer yards, and 2 fewer touchdowns than the prior season. His best game came against number 23 Illinois, 10 catches for 153 yards and a touchdown. That's a much more legitimate defense than Indiana State's. But he struggled against two top 10 opponents, with 7 catches for 51 yards combined against number 3 Ohio State and number 6 Oregon, and the Huskies averaged 10 points per game across those matchups. That doesn't erase the tools, but it does raise a fair question about how the production translates when the competition spikes. So Patriots Nation is going to split. Do you want Cooper, a speed-based threat with real yak juice? 52.7% of his receiving production came after the catch. Or Boston, the bigger vertical body who still got 34.6% of his yards after the catch and beat Cooper in yards per catch. Either way, it's a big play profile that can help May in 2026. And if New England waits too long, somebody else moves first, and you're staring at Plan B, trying to convince yourself it was the plan all along. Quick pause. This is the part where people get emotional, because both paths sound good in a vacuum. One is speed and scoring, the other is size and vertical stress. The real question is what the offense needs most on Sundays: easier throws for May, or a boundary threat that changes coverage rules. Either way, you're trying to make defenses pay for single high looks. There's another layer to this receiver conversation, and it isn't just fan noise. Trade buzz is everywhere. A lot of eyes have been locked onto Philadelphia and A.J. Brown. But two national voices pushed attention toward Florida's capital instead. Dan Graziano and Ben Solak put together a list for ESPN of the 15 best players who could be traded this month. Brown landed at number 5, but the top spot went to Jacksonville Jaguars wideout Brian Thomas Jr., with the Patriots listed among teams with a 20% chance of landing him via trade this offseason. 20% isn't a promise, but it's not nothing. It tells you there's at least a lane where a conversation could happen, even if it's a narrow lane. The key detail? Graziano wrote there's been no indication the Jaguars are planning to trade Thomas. The thought is, teams are monitoring the situation in case he's fallen far enough down the depth chart that Jacksonville would consider a move. Contract context matters here. Thomas is 23, with 2 years left on his rookie deal plus a 5th-year option, totaling $4.9 million. The Jaguars would save just $2.79 million against the cap if traded after June 1st. That's a small incentive for Jacksonville, which is why the leverage stays on their side. On the field, the interest makes sense. Thomas was a 2024 first-round pick, 23 overall, who finished 3rd in the league with 1,282 yards and tied for 6th with 10 touchdowns as a rookie. He was building chemistry with Trevor Lawrence and expectations were sky high. But his second season didn't go smoothly. A league-leading 10 drops on 91 targets, a 47.3% success rate, and a 52.7% catch rate, both down from 2024. Targets shifted toward Jacoby Myers, Parker Washington, De'Ami Brown, and Travis Hunter, the 2nd overall pick in last year's draft. That's a real shift in the way an offense spreads the ball around. So what is it? A real step back or a loud rough patch? If it's just a slump through 7 games, trading him now would be selling low, and Jacksonville doesn't really have to do that. From New England's side, the money is interesting. Patriots cap expert Miguel Benzan projects $41,293,841 in 2026 cap space after accounting for the official 2026 league cap number of $301.2 million. There's room. The tough part is the package. Jacksonville would almost certainly want high-level draft capital plus real veteran talent. Is that price worth paying, especially when you're also trying to build the rest of the roster? Because if you're imagining Drake May throwing to Stephon Diggs and Brian Thomas Jr., with Kayshon Boutte, Pop Douglas, and the rest rotating in, defenses have to play you differently. That's spacing. That's red zone answers. That's chunk plays that keep you out of 3rd and long. And yes, Patriots Nation would split on the philosophy: push in now or build patiently. The calendar squeezes this too. The league's free agency tampering period starts March 9th, and a lot of these questions get answered fast. And while the spotlight is on wide receiver, the defense is sending a quieter message that matters just as much. The Patriots can't chase offense and pretend the pass rush fixes itself. If you can't get a quarterback off his spot, you're playing uphill, even with a better receiver room. That's why Kayvon Thibodeau makes sense as a target to explore. His name has been floated as a possible trade candidate this offseason, especially with the Giants selecting Abdul Carter in the first round last year and already having Brian Burns and Dexter Lawrence leading the charge. When you stack that much talent, someone becomes movable. According to NFL insider Connor Hughes, the Giants are giving off the sense they'd like to trade Thibodeau once free agency begins, with most sources believing they won't take less than a fourth-round pick for the 25-year-old. A fourth-round pick for a pass rusher who's shown his ceiling. Yes, he's missed 12 games over the last 2 years. That's the risk. But in 2023, he logged 50 total tackles, 12 tackles for loss, 16 QB hits, 4 passes defended, 3 forced fumbles, a fumble recovery, and 11.5 sacks. That's the kind of production that forces protection changes. If he's the go-to pass rusher in New England, it's not hard to see that kind of impact again, and it's exactly what they've been missing in too many big moments. The alternatives aren't clean. The Raiders are tied to an asking price for Max Crosby that's been framed as 2 first-round picks just to start a conversation. Trey Hendrickson could come with a salary demand New England might not want to meet. Put that together, and Thibodeau starts to look like the best blend of upside and price. He also fits what Vrabel tends to like: aggressive, high motor, young enough to grow. And Patriots Nation splits again. Give up the fourth rounder and bet on the 2023 version, or hold the pick and hope a rookie edge fixes everything immediately? The answer changes the next domino. If New England goes veteran instead of trade, the board flips, and one name feels more real. Khalil Mack is going to play in 2026. That was the latest intel from NFL insider Ian Rappaport after weeks of retirement speculation because he's 35 now. Instead of walking away, he's heading to free agency and exploring all options. For a defense that needs pressure, that matters. Mack is coming off a season with 32 tackles, 6 tackles for loss, 11 quarterback hits, a safety, 4 forced fumbles, and 5.5 sacks, while playing in 12 games. Not his peak, but strong for the age and workload. And the appeal isn't just the stat line, it's the veteran presence, the mentorship, the way he can lift a young locker room and speed up a rookie edge's learning curve. Analysts continue to mock a defensive end or edge to New England because the defensive line, especially the pass rush, is still viewed as a major weakness. Throwing a rookie into the fire without a veteran stabilizer is risky. Mack, even short-term, could give immediate snaps, immediate know-how, and credibility when the defense needs a stop. Names like Trey Hendrickson and Odafe Oweh have been talked about heavily as pass rush options. Max Crosby stays the roller coaster. One day a future trade, the next untouchable, and the asking price always steep. If it really is that high, it's easy to see why New England might look elsewhere. That's why Mack is intriguing. A one-year bridge who can still change outcomes, and mentorship that could be priceless for the young edge they're expected to draft next month. At the very least, hearing Mack wants to play should push the Patriots to weigh the pros and cons. Combine a smart receiver upgrade plan with a real pass rush plan, and the identity shifts. And that's what keeps sticking with me. The most insane twist might not be one headline name. It's the chance to attack both sides of the ball in the same offseason without wrecking the future. In my view, the best path is balanced aggression. Get May a real playmaker boost, don't get comfortable at wide receiver just because the room looks full, and make sure the defense can win third and long. Whether that's a calculated trade for Thibodeau or a veteran swing like Mack, the point is the same. Stop living on hope. Now I want to hear from you. If you had to choose the direction, are you pushing chips in now, or are you holding back and building patiently? Drop your take in the comments, and if you're riding with Patriots Nation through every twist of this offseason, make sure you're subscribed.